Well, Craig Kelly, it's been a long time, but how are you going?
Oh, great to be with you, Alan, and you are correct. We were censored, we were vilified, and everything that we said back then, the last couple of years, has been proven correct.
You lost your job, though.
Well, Alan, some things are more important than your job. Standing up for the truth is important. And during the COVID period, people's lives were at risk. We had viable early treatments, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin combined with zinc, that all the best doctors in the world were telling me were effective and would save lives. We had study after study showing they were effective and saving lives. And yet we had bureaucrats here in Australia that were banning Australians access to that treatment. We had politicians like Mr Albanese on the floor of the Australian Parliament vilify treatments like ivermectin, with his cohort, who was then the Shadow Health Minister, Chris Bowen, as we now call Blackout Bowen, attacking me relentlessly on the floor of the Parliament. And all I was trying to do, Alan, was make sure Australians had access to a medicine that could save lives.
Just to come back to that, weren't you in court yesterday contesting a fine that you received for not wearing a mask outside?
That's right, Alan, yes. A great waste of court time yesterday. I was fined while filming a commercial for the United Australia Party outside, in open air. Some woman went and snitched to the police. The police actually, because this was such a serious offence, went door to door through a whole street asking for residents' security, their CCTV films, trying to show I wasn't wearing a mask. That went to court yesterday after 2 years and 5 appearances in court earlier, and was eventually thrown out and the charges dismissed.
Just unbelievable.
And that's on top of, Alan, of course, the case with the AEC, where the AEC wasted over $1 million of taxpayers' money on that was nothing other than a vexatious and malicious case against me, where they tried to prevent me from actually campaigning on election day, and then took me to court, where if I had have lost that court case, I would have been up for costs and fines of over $1 million over the font size of the authorisation, which at the end of the court, the judge found I was absolutely 100% correct.
Yes, and hundreds of people were unlawfully fined and arrested, weren't they?
They were around. Look, this was a shocking period to think that people were being arrested in the streets of Australia for the crime of not wearing a mask, when the law at the time said if you were carrying a cup of coffee, you didn't have to wear a mask. This was the absurdity of the law. And now we have seen study after study, the highest quality Cochrane studies, saying that we can't find that masks have any effect whatsoever.
No, that's right. And then we had guns in the streets.
That's right. Look, we saw scenes in this country, I will never forget them as long as I live, where we saw police firing rubber bullets upon protesters, not protesters that were trying to set fire to buildings or engaging in civil disturbance, that were simply fleeing. They were running through a public park, and we had Australian police forces in Victoria opening fire on these people with rubber bullets. These are scenes that I thought I would see in some tin pot broken South American country. But they were on the streets of our country.
Yet it's okay to protest in support of Hamas.
That's right, yes. Yeah,
you and I got into trouble talking about ivermectin. I think doctors in Queensland, am I right, were threatened with jail if they prescribed ivermectin.
In Queensland, the now, the governor of Queensland, Jeanette Young, she was able to have the power to put into law a 6 months jail sentence for any doctor that prescribed hydroxychloroquine. This was unprecedented. I had doctors ringing me at the time saying they've never seen any law like this at the time.
And how on earth does this woman become governor?
Well, Alan, a reward for doing a reward for doing a good job up there. Blocking access to hydroxychloroquine, which we now know. The latest study, which has been published out of France, has shown a retrospective study of over 30,000 patients that were given hydroxychloroquine in French hospitals, has shown a 71% reduction in deaths for people that took hydroxychloroquine out of hospital, and a 50% reduction of those in hospital.